But aren't we better not knowing?
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
This episode of SinCast is brought to you by NatureBox. Get 3 free snacks with your first order. Just visit naturebox.com/SinCast and use code SINS. All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Yellow.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Yo,
indeed.
I almost went with Cowabunga, but at the last minute I bailed.
You bailed on Cowabunga.
God, I've said weirder things.
Yeah. First things first, today we're going to talk about potential appearances that we're going to have, or just appearances in general that we're going to have in the next month or so.
Right. For instance, I'm going to grow a beard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you didn't mean physical appearance.
Yeah. No, I meant physical appearances too.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to start, wearing what? I don't know, overalls.
Flannel. Actually, you in overalls is a pretty nice picture. I
Absolutely.
Like that.
That's right.
That'd be awesome.
So many pockets.
You got to make use of it.
That's right. But right here in the heart of Nashville, there is the Wizard World Convention that's going on, and we are planning on doing a lot of cool stuff out there.
This is September 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yep.
And it's at the Music City Center, which is the bomb-ass brand new convention center we built in Nashville. I say we because I personally helped build it.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And because it's our hometown, we want to try and blow it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not just going to show up and do a panel. We're going to try and do several events. And we actually have a meeting later today to find out how many of these are going to happen. But for sure, we're going to do a live recording with a live audience of one of these episodes of the podcast.
That's right.
Which I think will be really fun because when we lose our shit on stage, it's either going to be awkward silence or 500 people laughing with us.
Whenever Chris talks about overalls.
Yes.
We also are going to try and do a Q&A panel separate from that.
Mm-hmm.
There will be times where you can get a picture with us or have us sign something. And in general, we don't charge for that shit like some people at conventions do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of cool stuff at this convention, though, even if you don't want to come just for us. For instance, the biggest draw for me is Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
Voice of the chicken from Moana.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I
among other things.
And we will get him to say, "I did not murder him." Not guaranteed.
I was looking last night. There's going to be people from Firefly there. There's going to be, Hulk is going to be there, Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah.
Anyway, check it out. Wizard World, Nashville. We should probably warn you about hotel prices downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Nashville is baller now when it comes to hotel prices.
We're going to actually bring Aaron Dicer down for this, and so we're putting him up in a hotel, and I was emailing him saying, listen, before you go looking, downtown hotel prices are insane.
They are.
We know this. It's worse than New York City, but we want you to stay close to the event so you can just walk a block or whatever. So he emailed me back, boy, you weren't kidding.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go too far out of downtown to start finding reasonable hotel prices. And there's Uber and Lyft in town, taxi services.
Airbnb.
Well, and part of the reason why it became like that, I think, is that when they built the convention center, they didn't have the hotel space to go along with it.
Right.
So they built like maybe one hotel, and that was that Omni Hotel.
Yeah.
They're building others like right next to it. You can't look downtown without seeing cranes of condos and apartments being built. But
we walked past, my wife and I were at a restaurant yesterday, walked past a painting of the Nashville skyline. She was like, oh, that's pretty. And I was like, man, now it's all wrong.
Yeah, it's inaccurate. But yeah, they're going to start doing that because I don't think they realize the popularity of that place.
Yeah, and I just think that, the growth has to catch up on the hotel room side of it. In probably about 5 years, it'll start to level off and be a bit more reasonable. But again, there's stuff close enough. You can eat at some of our favorite restaurants while you're here.
Mm-hmm.
We plan,
of which there are many.
we plan to be at this convention every day doing some kind of event. We've talked about all sorts of fun stuff that we might get into. But mostly we want you to start thinking ahead. If you're anywhere in the area, a couple hours drive, maybe you're just one state over, come on down and see us.
Bring your questions.
Bring your questions. And
Yeah.
bring your whatever you want us to sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That within reason.
Right.
And again, it's September 8th, 9th, and 10th. And check out their website, and we're going to be there. We hope to see you.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
The other thing that we're doing, we're not a featured presenter or anything like that, but we will be at Podcast Movement, one of the biggest podcast conferences in the country every year. It's going to be in Anaheim, August 23rd to the 25th. And we'll be there. So if you are there at the convention, stop by and say hi. And be glad to talk to you.
Yeah, we're not going to be on panels and stuff there, but we're going mostly to network with other podcasters and advertisers and just industry people who make your sound prettier.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I'm going to bail one of those days and go to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Because it's literally right next door. And the draw will be too much. Because I went to Disney with my family. I've told you guys about that. And I want to have another one of those Mickey pretzels.
Yeah.
They got these
Mickey
pretzels in the
pretzels.
shape of Mickey's head. They're ginormous, and you can get cheese with them.
Are they good?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Plus, I've never been to Disneyland. I've been to Disney World and the Orlando stuff from the time I was a kid up till now several times, but I've never actually been to Disneyland. And maybe Bieber will be there.
Yeah, maybe.
Because when the celebrities go to a Disney, they go to Disneyland.
He hasn't said he won't be there.
So I'm just calling that confirmation.
That's
right.
right.
I've been hawking his Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, and just being in Southern California during the summer and everything is always just,
You know what's crazy? It's going to be so much nicer there than it is here.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. I know.
Oh, yeah.
That ocean breeze really does impact things.
It helps. But yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So,
Oh, by the way, it'll probably rain while we're there.
yeah, it has
time.
rained every time we got out there.
Even though everyone always tells us it never rains.
It
in
never
LA.
rains.
Has it really? It's
Always
right.
has,
Oh, yeah.
has one day has
Every
some,
single time.
some rain has
Interesting.
happened. Yeah.
And everybody, all the natives are all like, we haven't had rain in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I know. We brought it with us. All right. There's one other thing I want to pimp today, and
Pimp.
I'm pimping, straight pimping. But I met this guy Nick Foxer a few months ago through this real estate agent that I don't know if he was him or if it was his girlfriend. I don't remember how that happened or whatever, but he was at this party and I saw this motherfucker do a One Direction karaoke without looking at the words.
Wow.
Nice.
He was sitting there just singing it, and at some point he's like, "I see you guys. You're looking at me to see if I'm looking at the words, but I'm not." So I talked to him last time a couple of months ago, and he said something about it. He's going to start this YouTube channel up, and he had this idea that he hasn't seen anybody else do, and all that. And I was like, interesting. What could this be? So he has started a channel called Earth the Foxer. He just recently, I think he's in he might be about 30 episodes or so right now. And he just got to 1,000 subscribers.
Nice.
But it's just him. He flew to Paris and he's getting these Airbnbs and stuff like that. And basically he allows the people watching to steer his journey.
Oh.
So what he's doing is he is at a place and he says, all right, here are 3 spots that I'd like to go. You guys vote on it. I'll go there.
So it's like choose your own adventure, vicarious living through somebody else's life.
Kind of, yeah. It's pure travel porn.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with travel porn.
There is
nothing
nothing wrong with that. He is, and so you see him go to all these places, and it seems like his main theme is he's looking for places where there's music. So he wants to see if there's and you see in several episodes where he finds these random festivals and stuff like that where people are playing music and all that. But he's also finding people who do art, and he's, doing all these different, it's art, and there's music, and there's like going to beaches and going to all these different places and all that, and it's really cool. And I think he's an engaging, especially for YouTube personality and everything. He talks directly to the camera very confidently and like, straight on, and he's doing this every day. He's got an episode out every day.
He's still in Paris?
No, so he started in Paris. It moved. He was in France for probably a good 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
And he went to let's see. He went to some small stuff in the country. He went to Monte Carlo at one point. And he even went into a casino in Monte Carlo, and he won like a grand playing blackjack.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right.
Did he let his viewers pick black
a
or
grand
red?
in euros. That's more than a grand in American money.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fun watching him go to all these different places, especially stuff that you may not be totally familiar with. He's like looking up some really like, maybe they're well-known tourist locations, but you don't know exactly. I mean, I've never heard of a lot of these places, and he goes out there and they're just gorgeous. They're just amazing. And I know he's doing this probably on a shoestring budget and everything. Mm-hmm. He's finding these Airbnbs. He's taking mass transit whenever he can. Yeah. And so, it's a fun, I mean, it's fun to watch him do all that. I just wanted to pimp him out and see, if you wanted to go see it, don't be a dick. If you're a dick, don't go watch a show and be like, I heard about this on the SinCast, and I just wanted to say you're a dick. Of course, now someone's going to say that.
What's his name again?
Yes.
Yeah, huh?
What's his name again?
His name is Nick Foxer, and the show is called Earth the Foxer.
Cool. Barrett, put the link in the description of this episode.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like right now.
Yeah, so right now, place it. But
is that gif of Kermit typing right now?
Yeah.
I can't wait until his journey spirals into that rules of attraction.
Oh yeah.
European.
Well, and so he's been in Italy for a while, and now like the voting is getting him towards Switzerland and things like that. So I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know what the last episode said he was going. I don't think he has another vote episode until like maybe the next one, but it's really interesting. I have a ton of questions for that guy.
Yeah.
I have a ton of them. I tried to get him on Facebook Messenger and he's not on it. So it's like, shit, man, I want to ask you a bunch of questions about how you're doing this.
The most impressive thing is the One Direction karaoke, though.
Oh my God. It was amazing. He was just sitting there just owning this whole party with the One Direction thing, man.
1D forever.
That's right. Anyway, go check him out. All right. So we're going to go right into the movie club today.
Yeah.
You can find me in the club.
You should join our club. You and your friend.
Now, if you're not going to take this seriously, perhaps we should disband the club now.
I love being a part of things.
We're going to be talking about cult films. Maybe not cult classics, really. I mean, cult classic, I guess, has a connotation of a bigger cult.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
But I mean, those are fair game today. We can do cult classics as well, but these are cult movies that have developed somewhat of a following over the years. It does kind of, when we do our best favorite underseen and underrated, I think a lot of these are underseen. I think every one of them could be possibly put in the underseen category. Although I guess there are some that are more underseen than others.
Yeah, I mean, a cult, the way that I thought about a cult and then kind of looked up various definitions, a cult movie is more of like a movie that has like a passionate, fervent fan base. They can quote dialogue. Some of them have these like midnight shows and things like that. And sometimes it becomes ubiquitous, like Rocky Horror Picture Show or something like that. Something like Monty Python, The Holy Grail, or Monty Python, really any of their features, started off as kind of like this niche thing, and now kind of everybody knows about them. So that would be an example of like a huge cult
that would be cult classic.
Yeah.
But anyway, who wants to start off? What's the best?
Oh, the best. Well, Jesus. By the way, I did not prepare for this because Barrett has such a good list of notes. But one of you guys pick a best, and I'll start circling.
Well, in the best category, I'm going to go with Pi. You have this, I think, in the big list there, and I was like, yeah, Pi, totally.
Yeah.
Darren Aronofsky's first movie, and it's kind of, I feel like Edgar Wright saw this movie. and sort of informs some of the way he does his stuff as well, because there's a lot of that. There's that constant, like, every time the guy wakes up, he pops pills, he does all this. It's like, and it does it in this like nice rhythm and everything. Pi is one of those just really interesting movies where, is the guy crazy? Is all the numbers in his head making him crazy? Or is this conspiracy that he's thinking of? Is it really happening? And so Pi is a really interesting movie. It's black and white. It's definitely dirt cheap as hell.
Small cast too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's just one of those movies that it's really unusual to watch.
Does it present? It's been a while since I've seen it, but it basically leans towards him being crazy, right?
Yeah.
Throughout the entirety of it. And then you start getting clues throughout that, like, there's something going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the end is one of the most disturbing, weirdest ways to end a movie I think I've ever seen, and it's all grounded by the main character, the main actor there, who's really compelling. So this is a really good movie.
Well, yeah, he thinks that there's patterns in the numbers and everything. It's almost Beautiful Mind-ish. You know, this movie did come out before Beautiful Mind, but it's not like Beautiful Mind or anything. It's just that. But he thinks that there's patterns in the numbers, and he thinks that there's conspiracies involved with it and everything.
It's not like the number 23.
No, it is not. He thinks that there's like a universal pattern in numbers. He's like using all these numbers to try to buy stocks and do all these type of things with them and everything. But Mark Margolis is in this movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul fans will enjoy seeing his appearance in the 90s.
Nice.
But I don't know. It's one of those movies hard to recommend necessarily. That's why it's sort of a cult movie. A lot of you will watch this and will not be able to get past the first 20 minutes because it's so fucking just so low rent.
Yeah, it is real student filmy.
Yeah,
at the beginning. I used to look into the sun, directly into the sun. My eyes would burn.
But you can see the style that Darren Aronofsky has in this movie, and so it's at least worth a look just to see a fun like how to do a movie low rent but still entertaining, and
most of my picks are going to fall under a pretty strict definition for me. It's just the way my brain thinks. But in general, I think of a cult movie as one that didn't do much when it came out, and then later found a very vocal, passionate fan base. Some of those go on to be even bigger. One of the things I love is that we can self-correct as an American film audience. So when The Nightmare Before Christmas came out, it was kind of almost, now it may have made more money than I remember, but it was almost a blip in the sense that for about 3 years there, it felt like I was part of a very exclusive club.
No, this movie made only like $50 million, somewhere around there.
And I only saw it because my brother brought it home and said, "You need to watch this." Of course, my parents were disgusted by it, but I fell in love immediately. It's so charming. Now, that movie is now, I think, mainstream. I think if you're a film fan, almost all of you have seen this movie. And I knew that it happened about 10 years ago when I was helping out with a youth group at this church, and one of the 13-year-olds came to youth group wearing a Jack Skellington shirt. And I knew he had bought it at like Suncoast Media in the mall or something. And I was like, okay, that movie is now finally properly appreciated. Yeah. But there were several years there where it wasn't, and it was merely just like my brother, people passing it on to friends and loved ones. You got to watch this. You got to watch this.
It became so much so that it got a re-release much later. I think a 3D re-release or something like that. They may have not done the 3D.
Well, and I just read they're making a sequel in comic book or manga form or something.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, I mean, that universe you could explore a lot in, obviously.
Absolutely.
But what this does have, you mentioned that your parents were disgusted, but what it does have is it's not over the top. Like, it's not hard to watch. I watched it with my 5-year-old when he was 5, and he wasn't freaked out. It's not disgusting
to look at, but my parents were, first of all, they're parents. They're older generation, they're boomers or what have you, and they're looking at, bats' wings being pulled off and whatnot. Yeah. Just the idea of what you're seeing is kind of gross to them. They weren't like charmed by that at all. But.
Yeah, and this is a super quotable movie, but mostly from the music.
Oh yeah,
like this is Halloween. This la 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 la. And all the, what's this? And like Christmas Town and all that. Man, Jack's lament when he's in the cemetery at the end.
What have I done?
It's so good, man. Like, I used to get excited like around like the end of August and going into fall. I would get excited just to watch that movie again.
Yeah.
Because you can watch it from, beginning of October basically until Christmas. Because it covers all the holidays. And it's really, really fun.
Yeah, and I'm done with the debate. My wife and I have agreed to disagree that it is both a Halloween movie and a Christmas movie.
I'm
not going to argue that anymore. We'll just watch it twice.
There you go.
And no one's going to be disappointed in our house.
Yeah.
I'm also leaning toward a bigger cult. This movie really had nothing going for it when it first came out, but is now really in the popular culture. It's The Big Lebowski.
Oh, this is a perfect example, too, because I do not get this movie.
It's very divisive. I know several people that do not get it or like it or both.
Yeah, but they have, like, festivals now. Lebowski Fest. I think Jeff Bridges showed up one year.
Well,
He did.
And the guy who actually is the basis of the dude has shown up.
Oh,
for
wow.
this too.
Yeah, the first Lebowski Fest actually happened in Louisville. Kentucky. It was put on by some friends of friends, and they thought because they just, in their formative years, they were quoting the movie to each other. They were, playing it on repeat and all that stuff, and like dressing like the characters occasionally. And this movie is super, super quotable. It's got great turns from like Philip Seymour Hoffman, of course, Jeff Bridges. Everybody in this is just a lot of fun. The whole movie is much better than I think it gets credit for because it's a good mystery. It's kind of like this Philip Marlowe type of situation. And Jeff Bridges, man, the dude has just a characterization that is just really difficult not to love.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what to tell people when they don't like this movie. And I know other people too that don't like it. It's more than what it is on its surface is the number one thing that I can bring up here. Yes, it looks like a stoner comedy. And I'm sure there's people who enjoy it just as a stoner comedy. But when you put somebody who is as average and as stoned as the dude is in this, and put him in the most confusing mystery possible, a lot of the humor is derived from that, and a lot of and there's also a lot of like really fun stuff. Like he'll hear something early in the movie and then somehow he'll incorporate it later on in the movie.
Yeah.
The very beginning of it is George Bush saying, "This will not stand. This aggression will not stand."
Yeah.
Later on, he's in the car and he's like, "This will not stand, man. This will not stand." And he does that so many different times. Like when you go and watch this, and I've seen it 20 to 30 times, it's just one of those where you just keep on picking up on things that happen throughout. A lot of really fun artistic touches in it. All the little dream sequences in there. The sort of the emphasis on scissors and like emasculation and all that's going on in the movie. So there's a lot of the references to "I'll cut off your Johnson" and all that, and people like wanting to keep their Johnsons and.
Who wouldn't want to keep their job?
Yeah, exactly. Steve Buscemi, the characters in it. I mean, the characters are all well drawn out. Steve Buscemi, who's always just like John
I'm the walrus.
Yeah,
I'm the walrus.
Just as John Goodman says he is. He's like, "You're like a child who wanders in the middle of a movie and you don't know who."
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Yeah, it's like the John Turturro character. I love the whole thing where Goodman's like sitting there talking about like, he got convicted for flashing 8-year-olds or whatever like that, and he's like, "Yeah, man, yeah, dude, he's a pervert." He's like, no, seriously, he's got a record and everything, and like he's like he had to go around the neighborhood and tell everybody that he was a pederast, and he shows him like knocking on the door, and this big dude in a wife beater shows up, and you see Turturro about to say it, and they don't go any further, and like. And so then Turturro comes over. He's the Jesus.
Yeah.
He comes over and he's like yelling at him and everything. He's like, "Hey, what is this? What is this day arrest shit? Blah, blah, blah." It's like, "I would have fucked you in the ass on Saturday, but now I'm going to fuck you in the ass next week," and everything. And then like after this whole diatribe, Goodman just turns to Jeff Bridges and says, 8-year-olds, dude.
That's after he goes, yeah, that's right. You don't fuck with the Jesus.
Yeah, no. He's like, yeah, we're gonna beat your ass on Wednesday or whatever. And he's like, well, yeah, man, that's just like your opinion, man. That movie is so funny, like all the way through it. So yeah, I understand, I guess, if you watched it once and you may have been not entirely in the right mood or whatever like that, and you watched it and you're like, oh yeah, that's just a stoner comedy of some sort. I disagree. It's just one of those movies that has way more to it than just that and everything.
Well, I see what I mean when I say I don't get it. I don't get why this became a cult classic. Like, I don't hate it. I didn't even dislike it. I'm just, of all the Coen Brothers movies, it feels like Hudsucker Proxy should have been the cult classic way before this one was.
Yeah.
And it's just, maybe it's just the way it hits me. Again, I laughed at the movie. I don't feel like, oh yes, this is one everyone needs to see.
Yeah, I think it's because the characters are so outrageous. I mean, you've got the Sam Elliott character that's the narrator, and then you've got John Goodman, who's this oversized personality, both physically and character-wise. And he's just this ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
Which is what makes that so funny when he's being provoked by the Jesus. And it's like 8-year-olds do. Because he's screaming about Vietnam and he's getting guns out and shit like that. And then you have Turturro's character and you have Buscemi's character that's just like this little annoying gnat and all that stuff. And then you've got centered with all this is the dude who kind of just observes all this stuff until he's thrown into this thing. And I think those characters are so outlandish that I think it makes it more... a little more meat to grab onto. I also love Hudsucker Proxy, but I could see why this has a broader appeal.
And I think it's easier to relate to his stoner character than it is, like, you know, and I love Hudsucker Proxy too. We may be the only 3 people in the world. But, you know, there's nothing in Hudsucker Proxy that you can sort of live a life by or anything like that. Whereas The Big Lebowski has sort of this easy, like, yeah, man, it's kind of cool to be like the dude, just be lazy and like somehow never have to pay rent.
Yeah,
somehow.
The rent's due tomorrow.
Yeah.
Far out.
Yeah.
But everybody likes him. Everybody that comes into contact with him is just like, that's the dude.
Yeah. And there's so many you put that guy with all the different characters that get thrown in there, the Julianne Moore character and everything. You're like, I mean, those are 2 worlds as far apart as possible and everything. And it's just fun watching him interact with all those people. Anyway, yeah, it's an interesting movie. Like I said, I don't know what to tell people when they don't like it.
I would say give it another shot.
Yeah.
If you didn't like it the first time,
and maybe even
if you didn't like it the second time, then fine.
Maybe even smoke some weed while you watch it. No, I don't know. That's another thing. I've never done that. I've never done it.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying.
We should.
It's something that,
don't do drugs, kids. Dare to be different.
I'm upset that when I was in Vegas, I didn't take advantage of one of the dispensaries.
That's true.
They have those in Vegas?
Oh man, it was fucking everywhere.
Well, you're walking down the sidewalk and it's like, it's all, you can smell it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
my whole hotel room floor just was like a cloud of weed smoke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now that I said that, you guys want to come out to Vegas with me next year when I play in the main event again?
I might have to check that out.
Yeah.
Have to check
you can,
don't do drugs,
well,
kids.
and they like put it in like candies and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, not that I know.
Edibles.
Not that I know, but
yeah.
I have heard they put it in candy.
I mean, we went to a great restaurant called Black Sheep, and it was amazing. Felt really bad about not going to a dispensary. So, what are your favorites of the cult movies?
Well, I don't know that I would even call this my favorite. I do really, really like it. But another, just a great example of a movie that didn't catch on until years after was Super Troopers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
To the point where it has such a large fan base, they broke Kickstarter records when they kickstarted the sequel.
Yeah.
I just saw on Reddit yesterday, or maybe even this morning, that they have wrapped post-production on Super Troopers 2.
Nice.
Now, it's been so long, and they have built up such a passionate fan base, I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
Because if you look at some of their other movies, like Club Dread and...
Ooh.
You know,
have to fight.
We're
about to fight.
Club Dread is a lot of fun.
Like
it's totally different.
I first didn't like Club Dread, and then I watched it again, and I was like, I'm on board. and Beer Fest. I'm a huge fan of Beer Fest. Now, yeah, that Dukes of Hazzard thing, I don't know if that's entirely their fault.
No.
I mean, movies like that, but overall, I kind of enjoy their. Even the Slammin' Salmon, that movie where they're all waiters at a restaurant and shit.
Never saw it.
It's actually really fun. One of the I guess it's one of the last performances of Michael Clark Duncan's in that movie.
There's a certain everyman kind of charm to this troupe, right? That you feel like it's almost Kevin Smith like. You feel like they're all one of us, but they snuck into this world where they get to make movies. Yeah. And I don't think any of them are an A+, but I don't think any of them are too far below a B or something. But Super Troopers is just insanely watchable to me. And I hadn't seen it in years, and I watched it again a few months ago, and you completely forget that Brian Cox is in this movie in one of the least Brian Cox-ness roles ever. Anyway.
I love that moment. This is where he kind of announces himself. They're in the bar, and it's state troopers, and then, the city cops come in and everything. And they start like chugging maple syrup. And, once he gets done, he's like, I am all that is man. And then Brian Cox comes in and like helps break up the eventual fight. And he's like, sorry, once they get to chugging syrup, they get all antsies in their pantsies. I use that term so much in my personal life.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime my wife is like ready to go somewhere, I'm like, you got all antsies in your pants.
Well, and it's hard to market a movie like this when it came out, nobody knew who any of these people were, and it's a small budget comedy. Well, we knew who Brian Cox was, obviously, and so I can see why it took a while to find its audience. I'm betting it did nothing at the box office, and yet its quality is still strong, and it has slowly over time gotten exposed to more and more.
This is one of those comedies in 2002, man. Like this used to make a ton of these type of or genre of comedies or whatever, like just had no chance.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like you can name almost any of these type of comedies in 2002 and to 2004 or so, and none of them did anything. They're just like these low rent comedies. And this one is a low rent comedy. It just happens to have a lot of really funny things in it. Yeah. And I know that there's just people who just randomly will start talking about how many times they can say meow to somebody and all that.
Well, the baseball players even do it. Like some major league player did it last season, I remember, like for our whole interview.
Listen, meow.
Yeah, that's a good one though. Speaking of comedies, Hot Rod.
Oh, nice.
I did not see this when it came out. And I remember somebody at Hollywood 27 in my last stint there was really liked it, and there were a lot of people making fun of him for saying, "Oh, it's really funny" and everything like that. And I was like, okay, well, I guess it's not that good of a movie or whatever. But I ended up watching it, and Hot Rod is probably one of my favorite comedies of the last 10 years or so.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's goofy.
It's so goofy.
You really have to like that kind of brand of humor, I guess.
Yeah, you do. But I like it when comedies sort of go for it and don't give a fuck. And this one just doesn't. And so especially, man, that whole scene with them like getting everybody and they're singing and downtown. I brought this one up before. They're singing and it's all, everybody's together singing this song and everything. And then it suddenly turns into a big full scale riot. It's always great. There's the whole thing where he shoots, or like his brother shoots a movie of him and he shows it in a theater and he sells it out and everything, but everybody went there to make fun of him. And he gets so mad he throws the entire like projector out of the booth or something. Like I think that's what he does. He smashes it or something. And it's like afterwards he's like, well, the theater owner comes out and he's like, well, you owe this amount of money. He's like, I just sold out your theater, man. And he's like, yeah, but the damages cost and all that go well beyond that. And, Bill Hader's really funny in it.
Bill Hader's always funny.
He is.
Danny McBride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole, Danny McBride after that riot scene just happens to show up with a TV and he's like, yeah, man, you don't know what to do in that situation. But yeah, I love that movie. It's very nutty. It's very, I guess, it has a big Footloose parody in it and all that. There's a point where he falls down a mountain for 5 minutes, it feels like, or whatever. I've always enjoyed comedies that just say, fuck it, and let's just do this and not worry about it. He says, I think he said when he made this, he was trying to make like a movie like Adam Sandler used to make back in the. Now you look at Adam Sandler, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, you can see that sort of that feel. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore either. So if you don't like those, you may not like that. I think Hot Rod might be better than those two movies.
It's up there, yeah.
But when you look at those early Adam Sandler movies, they can give a fuck, man.
Yeah.
And later on, he started. I don't know. There was something less about them. Like there wasn't really a care about the comedy anymore. Mm-hmm. Sure, there's like funny little situations and everything, but they don't go for it. They just don't go for it like they used to.
Yeah.
And this is what Hot Rod does.
One of my favorites is probably still on the cult level, like on the small cult level, and it's probably like people like me, like mid-30s to late 30s white guys that like music, but it's High Fidelity.
Yeah.
I think it's grown over the years just because of all the talent that's involved and all the quotes and all the like Jeremy always says, this movie is my happy place.
Yeah.
Like I can watch this movie anytime and I will be content. Mm-hmm. Because it's got great pacing, it's got great dialogue. I think the best John Cusack performance that I've seen. Put that up there with Better Off Dead or Say Anything or anything like that. Because it looks like he's really engaged in this character. It looks like it really could be him. Now, he's an asshole in this.
Yeah.
And his assholery shines through even when you're rooting for him. And it's like, it's that friend that you like. You really like him, but they can be an asshole at times. It's just like, damn. But then you've got the turn from Jack Black, almost like a star-making performance here, just unhinged. And, oh, man, it's so great. They're listing top fives and all that.
I don't think it did very well. I don't think it was any kind of hit when it came out, even though it had kind of a pedigree because it's Nick Hornby, right? And his other films based on his books had done well. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't like it the way you like it, but I don't find faults with it. It is one of the loopiest Tim Robbins performances you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's great because I was watching Annie Hall. It's a little bit of a derailment, but I was watching Annie Hall last night. And we always talk about Annie Hall, and there are some like fantasy elements, like when he pulls the expert out of the movie line and all that stuff. Yeah. But one I had forgotten was when they're in bed together, Woody Allen and Diane Keaton, and she doesn't really want to have sex, but she said, I'll just go along with it. And you can see like her soul kind of get up and sit on the chair while her body is making love. And that was one thing that I remembered. But then he starts talking to it. He's like, this is what I'm talking about. He can actually like point to it.
Right.
So it's like these fantasy elements in High Fidelity. He's got that moment that everybody has thought about because Tim Robbins is his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend. And, he's got this, he comes in and he's just like, he gets over the desk and like, get your patchouli stink out of my store.
Yeah.
And he lights a cigarette. It's like, punk motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then like it goes back to him like behind the counter and he's just like nodding.
Yeah.
And leaving.
Was one of the first, I think that was it may not have been the first movie to do that. But it was one of the first times I had ever seen that where it looked so real. Like they didn't do the whole dream. And
it's linear. Like they just cut right to it.
Yeah, man.
And then of course they started smashing him with the cash machine.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is the Cusack's like, get him, man, and like they like just kill him essentially. High Fidelity made $27 million.
Jesus.
When it came out. Yeah, it came out in March of 2000.
They probably paid 10 to Cusack alone.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right about Cusack's performance in this, and a lot of it I think has to do to his character. I mean, most of the time, Cusack is the type of actor, he's so likable that it doesn't matter that he doesn't really do anything different in a lot of his movies. It's really just him.
Right.
He's just one of those type of guys. But this is a movie where they've given him some sort of character to play. This was the same team with Grosse Point Blank. So, I mean, not the same director and everything, but the same writers and everything. And so those are his two best right there. It's Grosse Point Blank and this one, because there's some dimension, and we'll say anything obviously is probably his,
but he has less dimension certainly in Say Anything than he does in any of these, because he's just this paragon of virtue, Lloyd Dobler, that everybody, like, he's the manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah, he's the Marty Stew.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not do that again.
All right, so Underseen, which like I said, I do believe that most of these are underseen.
Right.
So you're trying to find that movie that is extremely underseen, I guess. Or the other day I brought up Kentucky Fried Movie to somebody, and this is somebody who basically knows movies, and they had not heard of it.
Wow.
Hadn't heard of it?
Had never heard of it.
Oh, wow.
Now, they're on the youngish side, but still, like, knows a lot of movies and stuff. So Kentucky Fried Movie was the first Zucker brothers. Now, they didn't direct it. I believe it was Landis who directed this, John Landis. So the Zucker brothers wrote Kentucky Fried Movie. They had done this Kentucky Fried Theater thing for a while in Wisconsin is where they're from. They used to do a Kentucky Fried Theater thing, and then they made a movie, Kentucky Fried Movie, which is really just a bunch of skits.
Yep.
And there is one big long one in there in the middle that's like the Enter the Dragon spoof or whatever. And that's the one that's got that great, like, the guy's like giving all these punishments to people. He's beheading people and everything. And the guy's like, "You gonna behead me? You gonna behead me?" He's like, "No, take this guy to Detroit." And he's like, "No, not Detroit, not Detroit." It's also at a R-rated level that they really hadn't. You don't really see later. I mean, I guess Airplane and Naked Gun have their like R-rated elements and everything, but this is like full on R-rated movie. Like they make fun of these, like, these B-movie sex thriller type things where it's just a bunch of basically just an excuse to have a bunch of naked women in it. There's another one where like a guy has trouble pleasuring his wife, so he has to get Big John Slade. So
there's another scene in there where like a couple's making out on the couch.
Yeah,
and the news is on in the background, and the newscaster is like he's doing his report, and he can see them, and he's like getting all hot and like it's gonna be 86, and he's like taking his tie off.
There's all these other people coming up.
And at the end of it, they're just like doing dog whistles.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god! Oh my god! Then you look up and they're like, "Oh shit! All right."
There's like just one simple skit where I think it's actually David Zucker himself who goes into a car, and there's like all these different alarms. So like there's one for the lights, there's one for the seat belt, there's all this other stuff, and then there's this one final one. He doesn't know which one it is, and then he just zips his pants, and that's what that ends the alarm. So it's just a bunch of skits all cobbled together and everything. And I don't know, I wouldn't say this movie's just laugh out loud funny all the way through it or anything. No,
it's got some valleys.
It's got some definite valleys in it, but it's got a lot of really funny things in it. And to satisfy your Zucker brothers and everything, watch some Kentucky Fried Movie.
Definitely underseen.
Yeah.
I got one because in the last 10, 20 years, whenever I bring this movie up, there's always a small percentage of whoever's there that's like, that movie's awesome. There's a cult here, but it's also an old enough movie that it's underseen because most of you listening were 2 when it came out. Heavyweights.
Oh, I've never seen this.
Oh my God. You would enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's basically the genesis of what Ben Stiller's character becomes in Dodgeball. And I haven't seen Heavyweights in a while. There may even be intentional references in Dodgeball because he's basically the director of a fat camp for kids who's like way over the top and too harsh. And
like White Goodman.
Yeah, well, yeah, basically he's that guy only 10 years prior or something. And it's got a lot of charming child actors, and they end up having to band together and fight this, dictator of a camp director. And it's really, really fun. It made me smile real big when I watched it. I have very vivid memories of Josh and I renting this in college. And it's just charming. I think you'd enjoy it.
Interesting.
I'm not saying, it's the best comedy ever.
It's just unfortunate I can't contribute because I don't.
It's okay. I couldn't contribute to Kentucky Fried Movie. So.
I have heard good things about it, though.
Yeah, but every time I've ever brought it up and somebody in the room has seen it, they have good things to say. And so I think there's a small, as yet to be organized online, cult of heavyweights.
So this was 1995 Heavyweights?
Yes.
This is it. And it was written by Judd Apatow.
Oh, wow.
With Stephen Brill, who directed it. Yeah, I remember it actually coming out, and I just dismissed it completely.
I
didn't watch
don't blame you, but I think it was Ben Stiller that drew us to rent it because at that time he was an interesting guy doing interesting stuff. Now he's just making Night at the Museum over and over again.
Was he the camp director in this?
Yeah.
Oh, he's actually the guy.
Oh, yeah, he's the actor.
Nice.
Yeah, Ben Stiller used to do like 5 movies a year.
Oh,
It was one of those type of things. Like, until he became a huge star, he was like in everything.
Yeah.
And I think even after There's Something About Mary, which was probably his biggest, hit and everything, he was still in a lot of stuff there for a while until it finally just sort of stabilized and he was Ben Stiller, So
yeah. Anyway, I like it. I think you would enjoy it.
Nice.
Just I don't hear too many people talk about it.
Yeah. I've got one that's pretty underseen too, and this is definitely a cult. I would even call it classic, just a small cult. It's a movie called Sid and Nancy.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And have you seen this?
I am not a part of this cult. Yes, I've seen this movie.
You didn't like it?
I couldn't get through it almost.
Really?
Go on.
It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
It really is.
And I have not seen this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So this is Sid Vicious, the basis for the Sex Pistols, and it's based on his actual life. And if you like punk rock, if you like rock and roll, if you like just that kind of element, like it's really, really good. And part of the reason is that Gary Oldman plays Sid Vicious fucking amazingly. I mean, it's incredible because it does show like the beginnings of the Sex Pistols. If you know anything about the Sex Pistols, they only put out one technical album, and they were this flash, this shooting star that just fizzled out, mostly because Sid Vicious got into heroin.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons he got into heroin was his girlfriend, Nancy. And this is the story about it. And what's really cool about this is that you see the love that they have for each other, because she was just this like drug addicted groupie who he initially was just like, fuck, I don't need any of that stuff. But then they fall literally in love. And it's this very, I mean, it's like Jesse and Jane in Breaking Bad. Like you could tell how much they love each other, but they're just destructive to each other. So much so, and it's not giving away because it actually happened in reality, that she ends up dying at the end. And the idea is that Sid Vicious may have actually killed her by stabbing her in this drug haze, basically. But the interesting part of the movie is where it shows the rise of the Sex Pistols and how they got to arguably one of the biggest bands in the world, even though they were this punk band from England. And then the quick decline too, while Johnny Rotten, the lead singer, is trying to keep this going. Sid Vicious is just absolutely like cannonballing. Like he's missing shows. He's just drugged out of his mind. He can't really do anything. And some of the time during the heyday of the Sex Pistols, that was okay, because that was kind of their brand of music that they were selling. But it got to too destructive things. So watch this for Gary Oldman. Chloe Webb plays Nancy. And then there's a really early turn for Courtney Love in this movie.
Oh, really?
And she's proven to be a very capable actress. So it's a really, really good movie, very underseen. And yes, it's got a particular look that may kind of turn you off.
I just want you guys to know I'm making a disgusted face the whole time he's talking about this movie. I did not enjoy this experience at all, but I do agree that Gary Oldman is probably worth watching the film because he's always great. So.
Yeah. It's like 27, 28-year-old Gary Oldman right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's young Gary Oldman.
Yeah. All right, guys. Underrated. Which is another interesting thing about the cult movies. I mean, again, a lot of these probably are considered underrated by the cults that follow these movies. So I would say most of them, but I think I've talked about Observe and Report a bunch. So
That is so good.
It is a good movie.
Oh, it's really good.
And I think it really doesn't get its due as the sort of the funny Taxi Driver, even though it's still really dark and everything.
Has that developed a cult?
I'm not sure if it has.
Yeah,
because both of the ones that I have for my underrated, I'm not sure has developed a cult.
Mm-hmm. It should.
I don't know if I hear very many people talk about Observe and Report. Maybe this is a category where you just kind of say, maybe this is something that should be, considered more or whatever. But I don't know. Observe and Report, I just think is a good movie. It's got obviously it's not perfect by any means,
right?
But I think it is a really good take on Taxi Driver. And like, look, this movie's still dark enough that, some of the funny moments in it can sort of ring false, I guess, at times. But
it gets creepy.
Yeah, it gets super creepy.
Yeah.
But it's also it does have a little bit more of a lighthearted look than Taxi Driver is completely dour. I don't think there may be like a couple of jokes in Taxi Driver and it's all Albert Brooks. But yeah, Observe and Report is one of those movies that I don't think gets enough play, and I don't know if it ever will, really.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people are still on a big Seth Rogen train. It's Seth Rogen. I really like the guy and everything. I just feel like that whole period of time where Rogen sort of rose in the comedy ranks has started to go down quite a bit in the past few years.
Yeah, and that's a shame for this movie because he's very anti-Seth Rogen in this movie. It's a very different take.
Yeah. I'll try to sell it on this one scene. There's a point where Ray Liotta takes Seth Rogen out to this dangerous fucking neighborhood, and mainly Ray Liotta is just sort of shining on Seth Rogen the whole time. Seth Rogen wants to be a cop. Ray Liotta is like a big shit cop and everything. And everybody down at the station can't stand the Seth Rogen guy because he keeps on going to the station and asking for jobs, and he's always failing the tests, and he's not cop material and everything. So Liotta takes him out to this dangerous ass neighborhood and tells him, we're going to do this and this and this and whatever. And he tells Seth Rogen to get out of the car, and he'll be back or whatever. Ray Liotta drives off. He's never coming back. Tells him that this is a place where a lot of drug deals happen and all that. So there's a point where like a bunch of kids are doing this drug deal and everything, and Rogen gets pissed off and actually puts handcuffs on the kid.
Yeah.
And like you see the next scene, you see him walking in the station with this kid and everything. He's like, sit down right there, blah blah blah, I got this motherfucker, all that type of stuff that Seth Rogen does. He actually got sent to this horrible neighborhood, actually did an arrest and brought him back, and then he's still being laughed at by everybody. I don't know if that sells everybody on it, but it's that type of thing that happens in it that's really good.
Mm-hmm. So Idle Hands has gotten some traction recently, I think. Wow. I hear a lot more people talking about Idle Hands than I think even when it came out.
I think so.
That's because no one saw it when it came out.
Nobody saw it when it came out, but this is a goofy-ass, funny horror comedy.
Early Jessica Alba.
Well, I'm getting there. Mm-hmm. So this has 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. Mm-hmm. I understand why, because every step this movie takes is goofier and goofier and goofier. It's about a possessed hand, basically. Mm-hmm. But man, Seth Green, Devon Sawa, like it just makes it hilarious. Like I can totally watch this movie. Another stoner comedy that I've never watched stoned.
Yeah.
But I still laugh at it. It's a good like comedic horror take on it. And man, late 90s Jessica Alba was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, stunner.
And of course, she ends up with Devon Sawa's character, who's this stone loser.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Right.
But Vivica A. Fox is really funny in this. Like, there's just a lot to like in it. Don't set your expectations high, but it is fun.
I have heard a lot of people talk about Idle Hands. Not recently, but I know that a few years after it came out, there were a lot of people who'd say, "Ha, Idle Hands," blah, 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 and they'd start talking about it and everything. This is another movie that I have not seen though.
Oh, really?
I remember I remember the trailer for it, and that's about it.
I don't think Barrett is wrong that it's underrated if it's at 16%, but I think you go much past 20 and it's going to get overrated. I can't sit here on this podcast.
It's in the 17 to 19 range.
Unlike the previous two movies talked about that you had not seen yet, I can't recommend you watch this movie, which is probably going to make you watch it even more.
I mean, I watch all these movies eventually that you guys have talked about. Cause it's just
remember when Devon Sawa was going to be a thing?
Yeah.
There was a good year there where he was going to be a thing.
He was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are stories that he was coming to sets like drugged up and whatnot. I think he kind of went down a dark path.
He started playing a lot of drugged out characters because he was also in SLC Punk, that movie that I talk about all the time, as a drugged out character.
He in a movie called Wild Kingdom or something like that? It came out in the 90s. I remember a big, huge banner with him on it and everything. And I was like,
the last huge thing I remember him being in was Eminem's Stan video.
Well, yeah, there was that, and Final Destination, I think, is his biggest movie he's ever done. But yeah, Stan came right after that, and that's where we get the colloquial Stan for fan.
Yep.
Thanks, Eminem.
That I don't like at all.
It's a great video, though.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And I love the little Dido touch in that song, too.
I do, too. Yeah. I remember that it was such a publicity stunt at the Grammys or the VMAs or something like that. He did Stan, Eminem did, and they had Elton John come in to sing the Dido part in response to Eminem being all, anti-gay with all his lyrics and things like that. And there was this really odd manufactured moment where, like, at the end of the song, Elton gets up and, grabs Eminem's hand and just kind of like parades around for everybody and feels like it's an important moment. And then he pans over to Eminem and he's just like, blank face.
Although I just read a story yesterday that when Elton John got married to his partner, Eminem gave him 2 diamond encrusted cock rings.
Cock rings?
I think they've gone on to be friends after this event you're talking about.
I think you have to be friends to
I don't know. Either that or it's just more misunderstanding of homosexuality on Eminem's part.
You guys all wear cock rings,
yeah,
right?
Right? That's a thing. Diamonds, why not?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I think whatever their beef was legit buried, and now they're kind of like buddies.
The movie I was trying to think of was called Wild America. It had Jonathan Taylor Thomas in it.
That's just based on a true story.
Yeah. But that was the first time I remember seeing his name because I was like, it's a guy named Devin, and because I think I knew all girls were Devin at that time, and then I was like, how do you pronounce his name? Devin Sawa.
Devin Sawa, what?
Yeah.
I'm going to flip the script here because I didn't prep very well for this part, so I'm going to give you an overrated cult classic.
Okay.
Not an underrated one. Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when this movie came out, I don't even know if it had a theatrical release, but it very quickly got a cult following to where anytime anybody mentioned that, oh, you got to watch Boondock Saints, but Boondock Saints, oh, you got to watch Boondock Saints. They've even gone on to make a sequel that had such great cult following. And years after both movies, I finally found it on Showtime or something, and I was really underwhelmed. I
agree.
I can see flashes of what people might have glommed onto. It's a ludicrous movie.
Yep.
Because Willem Dafoe's chasing them. They're vigilantes. Unlike Batman, they straight up kill bad guys.
Oh, yeah.
Feel good about it. But by the end, Willem Dafoe's decided they're right. I'm going to help them.
Well,
that's literally what happens.
This is Boondock Saints is actually an interesting story, and I would like to see. I've never seen the movie called Overnight, which talks about Troy Duffy, who directed this, his experience with the Weinstein brothers when he made this movie.
Oh,
from what I understand, this movie was much bigger at one point.
Oh,
and from what the reason why Harvey Weinstein has the nickname Harvey Scissorhands is because he would cut movies to death to get, a certain length, I guess, that he wanted or whatever. I still need to see this movie Overnight, though, that talks about this and everything. But Boondock Saints apparently was. Now, the other thing I think Overnight talks about is that how much Troy Duffy thinks of himself.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of that ego clash thing going on with Boondock Saints. I don't know how two people who wanted to make a completely different movie made this movie, and then everybody else decided this was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And then it got such a cult following that it came out with a sequel that's awful.
That's
the
what I've
sequel is awful.
Were you underwhelmed by the original?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just a movie that I don't understand why it's got such a... I guess it's shot to where it's very cool. The main character, Sean Patrick Flannery and Daryl.
Yeah, Norman Reedus.
They're very cool. But like, I just didn't get it. Like, I was like you. It was like primed for this like really interesting action thriller, and I got kind of like stock footage.
I mean, I thought I was going to get another like experience like I had with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, where a cult had said, "You got to see this. It's not like anything you've ever seen," and this one was like a lot of things I'd seen.
Yeah.
Adding to your overrated, it's got a 7.9.
That's way too fucking high.
IMDb.
That's
like classic territory.
Yeah, you're getting up into. I bet you could find a lot of Spielberg classics that aren't rated that high.
Man, talk about this disparity. It's got a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, that is a disparity. So the critics
hated it,
but the fans loved it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
overrated
I'll tell you what, man, I didn't even hear this movie for the longest time.
I didn't either.
It was a couple years after it came out that people started bringing it up, and I was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" Boondock Saints. Okay, It took me a few years to watch it, and then finally I saw it, and I was like, "Oh." Now, there's part of it is being told how great it is before you watch it.
Sure.
And I have seen it a couple of times, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's all right.
Yeah. Came out in 99, man.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not change your world fucking great, though.
Yeah.
So I never understood that. And then, that's like I said, the sequel came out. It was fucking terrible. But that's a good one. Good overrated there. I think that may be one of the most overrated cult classics.
It might be.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Well, yeah, I agree there.
I don't know if anybody admits that movie is good, though.
Oh, I do. I mean, I don't think that, but I think people do.
You think so?
Oh, people defend that movie to the death.
Man, I've never heard anybody just say that movie's great on its own without the experience of going to like a midnight showing or anything like that. I'm sure there are people, because there are people out there who watch The Room, unironically.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are people out there who do it. But how many of that cult like the movie based on just it's a great movie?
I don't know.
Don't think there's many.
I hope not.
I hope not too. So a few others on my list here, and we can go through Barrett's list at some point. But on the best, I also put. I probably wouldn't put this on best, but I wanted to mention it. Primer, which in some early podcast somewhere I said I had not seen it. I've seen it since. It is one of those movies that like Jeremy had said, you're not going to understand anything that happens in it, and I was like, yep, I sure don't. After I watched it, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I had to go to Wikipedia, which has a big fucking diagram all drawn out, like
I've seen that.
what's happening and everything.
One person walking out.
Shows the other people coming. Now, once they're here, these people are here, and so on and so forth. I was like, oh. I put it in best because it seemed like a perfect movie to pair with pie.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of peas.
Yeah, it is.
But
a lot of alliteration from what's he say?
Oh man, I wish I'd remember.
Oh man, it's like it's not that, but it's like a lot of alliteration from nervous newscasters.
Primer is one of those movies though that I constantly heard about. Now you talk about some low rent, man. This looks like it was just shot on a VHS camera.
It was super cheap, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it had to have been. It had to have cost like just a few thousand dollars or something like that. Undeniably though, very smart in what it's talking about, but it's very dense as far as what it's talking about too. So yeah, I didn't quite understand it. Like I said, I had to go to fucking Wikipedia to understand that movie, but I thought it was an interesting one. In the favorite, I put Rounders down. Of course, I'm a big poker guy, but back when I watched this movie, I was not a big poker guy. I kind of liked this movie on its own before I even got into poker.
It does a very good use of narration, I think.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
you need narration in that movie to set you up. Because especially in 1998, nobody knows what was going on as far as the poker's going on. More people obviously now do, but it sets it up to where it's an easy explanation to see what the stakes are, what's going on, and that kind of thing. I agree. It was a great movie before I got into poker too.
First time I saw this movie in Montreal. That's another story for another time.
Oh.
But I saw this movie in Montreal.
Montreal.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, I remember watching this movie and I did not understand any of the poker whatsoever. Like when he says, "I flopped the nut straight," I was like, huh? How did he win? I don't get it.
You have my money.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst accents ever, right?
It is.
I mean, what the fuck is he trying to do?
It's
there?
beyond cartoon.
Yeah, it's like Boris and Natasha.
Yeah. Yeah, it may be even more than that though. It's what
Pay
you would,
this man his
yeah,
money.
it's what you would hear. Yeah, you would hear this, and I mean, it's way off the charts. In Underseen, I don't think this was on your list, but UHF definitely has a big, huge cult following now. The movie is silly and dumb as hell, but Weird Al Yankovic, I think Weird Al Yankovic has gotten sort of a legendary status over the past few years.
Yes.
That I don't think he quite had up until like the past 5 to 10 years or so. It seemed like people really liked his stuff, but they didn't. Now he's at that upper, like, you can't touch him type of thing. But UHF is super silly and super dumb on a lot of levels, but I enjoy it every time I watch it. So it's a movie that I would highly recommend. Another one in my underrated that I don't know has quite got a cult, but The Quick and the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
I know that a lot of people probably found Sam Raimi over the years, and maybe they've run across this at one point, but I remember banging my head against the wall trying to get people to watch this movie. The problem is Sharon Stone. It had a lot of trouble getting people to watch this movie because Sharon Stone was in it, and that's too bad because Sharon Stone doesn't make or break this movie, even though she's the main character. But I mean, Sharon Stone is perfectly serviceable in this movie and doesn't detract at all. And doesn't take away from the Gene Hackman, the Leonardo DiCaprio, the Russell Crowe, the just the balls out Raimi that we're familiar with at this point. Doing a Western about, duels and everything like that, in the way that he can. And it's a movie that I always try to recommend. But what else is on your list that you wanted to bring up? Any?
I will throw out Alpha Dog.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I'm with real movie nerds like you guys, I always get those responses. Oh, yeah, Alpha Dog. Yeah, that's great. And even on the movie subreddit, when Anton Yelchin died and everybody was, talking about him and mourning him, there was clearly a lot of love for Alpha Dog. But general movie-going person, I bet they don't even know this movie exists, let alone have seen it. And it's chock full of people you know. Like, my God, the cast. I don't even know how they shot this movie with this many famous people in it.
Well, they weren't famous.
Well, Timberlake was.
Yeah, Timberlake was, but I'm sure they weren't paying him.
You're probably right. But
Timberlake
It was
money.
one of his first movie roles, though, wasn't it?
I think it was. And he's good in it. But there's a lot of great people in this movie. And
Like, Amanda Seyfried before she was anything. Olivia Wilde was somewhat famous for OC at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Emile Hirsch had just started.
Yeah,
kind of
Emile
his,
Hirsch had just done The Girl Next Door, and that was like his biggest movie at that point,
Yeah.
I think. Ben Foster definitely wasn't a big deal at that point. Now, and then they put like big stars like in smaller roles, like Bruce Willis and Sharon Stone, and all them. But yeah, nobody in that was like huge. That movie is interesting. I think it went through litigation because the actual trial was going on. The actual events this movie was based on, the actual trial was going on at the time, and I think some information was passed to the filmmakers that it took a while for this movie to even see the light of day.
Wow.
And I think people are finally finding it, though. It's showing up on cable quite a bit now.
Yeah.
and a lot of people are finding that it's really good.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I also wanted to just at least talk about and give a hat tip to the first Austin Powers movie,
Oh,
which
yeah.
did nothing.
Nope.
And found its life on home video,
Yep.
VHS basically, because this was even pre-DVDs. Became such a huge hit. Not only did they make a sequel, but that sequel did gangbusters box office.
Yeah,
I
it
remember
did.
working at Hollywood when that thing opened, and it was probably won the weekend in box office the weekend
Yeah,
it opened.
it came out the same. It was in the same month as Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Now,
Right.
Phantom Menace may have still been number one. I'm not sure how that played out that weekend. But The Spy Who Shagged Me definitely made tons of money. That 1999, I will never ever forget how many times I started movies and the Austin Powers trailer would start it off because I put the grr and swinger baby and all that. The first one made $53 million, which is a middling hit and everything. This one made 200 something million.
And I remember walking in, and audiences, not only were they sold out shows, but they were eating it up.
Yes,
man.
they
that
were.
was basically an hour and a half of pure laughter every time you walked into that.
That opening is the one that's chock full of all the stars, right? Like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Tom
and all
Cruise,
that.
and and it's enjoyable. I'm just saying it's one of the only instances I can think of where something found a cult audience, and then the cult grew so big it became an actual best-selling franchise.
That's a good point, and I think this happens a lot with Mike Myers movies, because I was thinking about So I Married an Axe Murderer, which definitely has cult status at this point, but I don't remember it being an enormous hit when it came out.
I think what happened is he's not the kind of leading man audiences are like, oh, I gravitate towards that guy.
Right.
He's a very quirky guy. And so a live action movie with him as the lead is going to be a blip until, people find it and realize how much funny there actually is.
Yes.
And So I Married an Axe Murderer is a great one.
it was Goldmember that had all the stars at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
It was
Oh, okay.
Cruz and Paltrow and Kevin Spacey.
Well, that movie
and
was
all
pretty huge too, though.
No, that made another $200 million.
They'll probably make another one now because everything else he's tried has not been good.
Well, there was talk about him doing that a year or so ago. He was writing one, and I don't know where that went. I mean, there's a lot of things. Like I heard about Stallone doing that when before Rocky Balboa came out. He must have been writing that thing. I think he called it a puncher's chance for years before it finally got made. And actually turned out better than I thought it would too. But I don't know. Comedies are hard to make huge trilogies and series out of. I mean, Goldmember has its moments.
Yeah, but it's bad.
Well, it's clearly the inferior one of the three.
Yeah.
But I
I'm
guess
just saying-
after the new like Daniel Craig Bonds and everything have come through since,
Yeah.
you might have more material to deal with at this point. So.
He's going to be Bond one more time, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
And
right.
they're going to call it Shatterhand.
Shatterhand. Huh?
Seriously?
Yeah, and it's gonna borrow elements from a previous Bond movie where Blofeld used the name Shatterhand as like a fake name, and Christoph Waltz is going to be back in this movie. And everything.
Tell you what, I've seen all the Bond movies. I don't remember the Shatterhand, but
Well, they're probably digging pretty deep at this
I'm
point.
sure they are. I'm not saying the report is wrong. I'm just saying that Bond movies kind of run together after a
Yes,
while.
they do.
Yeah.
You start to go, people ask me, what's the best Bond movie? And I'll be like, oh, Jesus Christ, man.
Casino, Live and Let.
Yeah. You start by saying the bad ones first. Like it's definitely
Don't
not
watch this.
Definitely not The Man with the Golden Gun,
Yeah.
and it's not Live and Let Die.
Octopussy.
Yeah. But you have a lot of interesting ones on this list here. You have Ghost World, which I love.
Terry Zwigoff, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Pitch Black, which I think is a really good one. Kicking and Screaming, we've talked about before, not the Will Ferrell one. We always have to couch that.
It sullied the good name of Kicking and Screaming.
Yeah, it did. I know that Jeremy's brought up Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy a bunch.
Yeah.
The Limey.
The Limey's a great one.
Yeah.
For underseen at least. Because, again, everybody I know who's seen it loved it, but they are all super film nerds.
Well, and this movie, Logan Lucky, that's coming out, is going to be like that, I think. It's going to be a movie that nobody sees, and then it's going to be actually just so great. I think the movie's going to be.
It's also pretty fascinating. I was reading yesterday. Soderbergh hates the studios. He spent a year trying to get the theaters to show Logan Lucky without studio distribution. And he ultimately didn't get there. He got like halfway there, I guess. So some theaters are going to play it without studio involvement or what have you. But he's on a mission. The article plainly states he's on a mission to kill the studios.
Interesting.
Huh.
I don't know if he'll succeed, but
I don't know. If anybody can.
Well, and Soderbergh, I mean, I knew this was... He said he was going to retire. I knew that wasn't going to happen.
The Jay-Z retirement.
Yeah, because that Behind the Candelabra was supposed to be his last movie, and I mean, when you're somebody like Soderbergh, you're like, you get a year off or something. You're like, man, I got so many ideas and everything. You can't retire until you're just you're done. You can't do it.
Yep.
Can't do it. Another interesting one you had on here was Empire Records.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie a million times. I really enjoyed it. It's 90s as fuck.
It is 90s as fuck.
But
it's at a record store. Oh my god.
One of my all-time like crushes, Liv Tyler.
In that movie.
It's just you watch it for her, but then like, oh, this is actually an interesting kind of like, you don't watch Empire Records and High Fidelity back to back.
Yeah, man.
It's good to get record store Nirvana going
that's right.
through that.
Yeah.
If there's anything else?
Well, one thing that I think is still a cult classic that probably very few people have seen is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead.
Oh yeah.
I got this when I was in high school around like 97 or something like that on VHS. Like my sister's boyfriend or something brought it over and was like, you need to watch this. And at the time, I had actually read a couple of Tom Stoppard plays and saw this has incredible turns from Gary Oldman and Tim Roth as these two minor characters in Hamlet, and it just blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The very idea at the time of retelling the Hamlet story from the perspective of these two minor characters who are hardly in Hamlet at all,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing glimpses of the Hamlet story go by in the background, it's almost Nolan-esque in the way they decided to play with time and the events as you are familiar with them. But it's quirky as shit.
Yeah.
And if you don't have Gary Oldman and Tim Roth in these roles, I don't know if it works as well.
I agree.
But yeah, again, everybody I've ever shown this to loves it. This is another one of these movies where Josh and I had already fallen in love with Gary Oldman and Tim Roth from like Reservoir Dogs, and so we go into the video store looking for any Tim Roth and Gary Oldman movies we haven't seen. God, you're going to love it. I can wholeheartedly endorse this movie. I don't think you could hate it.
That's going to do it for the movie club today. I'm sure that we'll have more stuff about cult classics at some point because there's a billion more to talk about. But that's some interesting ones. Give those movies that didn't get a chance every once in a while.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, guys, we're going to be talking about Nature Box once again
because we love it.
That's right. Absolutely. Jeremy?
Yes.
Is there anything new that you've been eating?
Well, not that I've been eating, because our last box, I probably had 20 snacks in it.
Oh, yeah?
Something like ridiculous. Yeah.
Nice.
But I wanted to talk about how much fun I'm having when people post their pictures on Twitter and tell me specifically, like somebody, I think just 2 days ago, posted a picture of the sourdough cheddar pretzels, and they were like, you're right, these are amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, all right, camaraderie. Because we're not blowing smoke.
No.
Because I think if we hated Nature Box and we spent 3 minutes of this podcast talking about how great they were, you'd be able to tell.
No, and you can move around a lot within their offerings. Like you can get all kinds of sweet stuff. You can get your nuts. You can get salty stuff. Like I tore into some pork rinds. The last one. They were the small batch pineapple ancho chili pork rinds.
Oh,
wow.
Blow your mind.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah, man. They were really good.
I see a lot of people that like the spicy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a wide selection. I'm not a spicy snack person, but they have a lot of it.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, they have a sort of zone for everybody, right? It's just, that's the thing. You're not going there and there's like 5 snacks.
Yeah.
Which one do I pick out of the 5? There's like a million.
Yeah, man.
But I'm always partial to the sweet stuff. That's my Achilles heel when it comes to Nature Box. Is because they had those key lime cookies the last time they brought us a thing, and And those little pineapple slices are just, oh my God.
The pineapple slices are good for you, right?
Mhm.
It's fruit. It's dried fruit, but it tastes like candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's sugar in fruit naturally.
Well, sure, but it's mighty tasty.
I'm not. My wife has gone through like 30 bags of that shit. I also really like the emails they send me. It's like one of the few companies I do business with as a consumer whose emails don't annoy me.
Yeah.
Because they are always telling me something helpful. Here's a new snack. These 6 snacks we're running low on, so get them before they're gone. That's what I got today, actually.
Yeah, me too.
And I find it really helpful.
I actually got one that said, like, you have this much money in your account left.
Yeah.
You got $36 in snacks on the table. I was like, shit, I got to get some snacks.
You got a $36 slush fund for.
Because that's what happens. You kind of like buy into it, and you have your subscription. And that's your credit that you can draw from. It's awesome.
Man, you know, another effect I've noticed, at least in terms of improving my health, and this may be small, but I think it adds up, is that when I have ordered a Nature Box and I know it's coming, and I go to the grocery almost every day. I realize I live like a 19-year-old bachelor, but I go to the grocery and get everything I'm going to eat that day or make at home or what have you. And, you always pass the potato chips and, the nacho chips and all the stuff that's not really very healthy for you at all. And if I know I have a Nature Box coming in the next couple of days, I won't buy a bag.
Right past it.
Because I'll be like, what's the point? I'll eat that for one day, and then I'm going to switch over. Not only does Nature Box taste better, but it's better for me. And so it has reduced the number of times I buy a bag of potato chips.
Yeah.
By a lot.
And right to your door, too.
Yeah.
All right. So where are we sending people these days?
If you go to naturebox.com/SinCast, here's what they're going to do. They're going to give you your first 3 snacks free.
Wow.
First 3 snacks are free.
Man,
I would make those sourdough cheddar pretzels, and sourdough cheddar pretzels.
You can't go wrong with any of those.
That is crack. Can't go wrong with that.
Of those choices, you're going to be fine.
But yeah, absolutely. Go there, get you some snacks. Almost everyone that I've ever eaten has been good.
Yep. 3 free snacks with your first order. Use the promo code SINS.
Yeah. Get you some.
I kind of said it like there's a Z at the end, but there's not a Z at the end. It's not SINS.
It's your normal.
It's SIN.
It's not like 2 Chainz.
No, it's not like 2 Chainz.
Yeah, that's right. It's not like 2 Chainz.
That was the first one that popped into my mind.
Yeah, just plain old sins.
That's regular old sins.
That's right.
Should we move on to questions?
We should move on to questions.
Oh, we got a boatload of questions.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
All right, we'll start here. Shalom.
Shalom.
All right. Shalom. When a movie is released now, there's instantly thousands of places to go and watch a video review and have a discussion about the movie, which is nice. Your subreddits and things like that, it is great. Before, you can only talk with your limited group of friends, and only if they had seen it as well. What movie do you wish you would have had the ability to discuss with a larger community immediately after coming home from the theaters? This person's pick is Iron Giant. Saw it when he was 6 in an empty movie theater with his mom, and nobody else saw it, so he had to talk.
That's really the only way you could watch it when you were in a theater was an empty theater.
So what do you guys think?
Oh, well, the first thing that popped in my mind was The Matrix. I saw that with Josh, and we talked about it plenty, but I wanted a roundtable discussion right there in the hallway outside the auditorium. I mean, that movie it blew my mind on so many different levels, the effects, the high concept, and it's the kind of movie that lends itself super well to discussion. And I would even say the same for Reloaded, because when I walked out of Reloaded the first time, I didn't realize how bad it was.
Right. You needed somebody to ground you.
Well, no, I was still loving it, and I had all these theories, because the second one ends in such dramatic fashion with him in the real world stopping the Sentinels, which you didn't think he could do. And what does that mean? What? I just immediately came out wanting. Now, of course, in that instance, I was managing a theater, so I had 50 employees and a couple managers and a bunch of my friends. And so we were all discussing it right there in the lobby for like an hour.
When you first saw Reloaded, did you get that it was Smith in the real world?
Yeah.
That it was Hugo Weaving in the real world? Because there was I went with a couple of people, and I said that. I was like, no, that's Smith. And they're like, no. I guess because he had a goatee.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Well, they had it's the one guy who can't get back, right? And he just steals that guy's body, essentially, when he gets back.
It's a pretty quick scene, though, when Smith picks up the phone and gets sucked into it. So I could see how people might have missed it, especially on that first time through. Another one, I don't know if I'm stealing anybody's answer, Inception.
Uh-huh.
A lot of Nolan movies fit this description because he likes to make you think. He likes to get deep, but Inception was just... What?
Yeah.
So those were my immediate answers.
Yeah, Inception was definitely one of those movies that afterwards I was like, I've got to talk about this with everybody.
Yeah.
There's so many things about it I want to...
Chris is just walking around the lobby.
Well,
I want to talk to somebody about
well,
this
no,
movie.
it's even worse because I watched that movie, I guess, by myself because it was, one of those you watch at midnight when you're working at a movie theater or whatever. So it was nobody to talk to. It's 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Just the cleaning crew coming in.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, have you seen
Yeah.
this?
I know you haven't, but I need to talk about it. I'm gonna go with Donnie Darko on this one.
Oh, that's an
Talk about a
excellent call.
cult.
Yeah, absolutely. Donnie Darko could definitely fit under that cult thing. I saw this movie at the Belcourt, and I remember it's just one of those movies that when anything involves time travel, and it goes in this sort of loop structure.
Yeah.
It always raises so many questions.
Yeah.
And of course, Donnie Darko is one of those famous I don't understand what happened movies, because it loops back and everything. I feel like I understand this movie these days. I don't know if I did when I first watched it. I think it still sort of contradicts itself a little bit, but
Where does it go at it? So he had to complete the time loop for it to actually be reality, right?
yeah. What is missing from Donnie Darko is what Jake Gyllenhaal actually does in the movie to make this loop complete.
Right.
Because we know that he must have done it, but we don't know how he did it. The only thing we know is that he got information from the old lady who always goes out to her mailbox and almost gets run over by the cars. She wrote a book. Maybe there's something in the book. They never really explain it, that type of thing. But it is one of those movies, though.
But he has to die to close the loop, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole...
Well, closing the loop means he is going to die.
Right.
Because instead of being out of his room when the airplane engine falls, he's in the room when the airplane engine falls. And I know that he makes a decision. He goes, man, the world is a worse place because I've made these decisions and so on and so forth. So I'm going to make a decision to reverse all of that because, his girlfriend's dead. He's got, all this stuff that's happened. He's
Although he did expose Patrick Swayze's pedophilia.
He
though,
did.
right?
He did.
So that doesn't happen after the loop closes, right?
But aren't we better not knowing?
8-year-olds.
Yeah, 8-year-olds, dude. But yeah, you're right. I'm sure that's part of the decision. Now,
maybe he just wrote a note and saying,
right? Yeah. By the way,
this dude is a fucking asshole.
of course, then the very act of writing the note is gonna be gone too. But yeah, Donnie Darko is just one of those movies you walk at. The first time you ever watch Donnie Darko, you're like, what the fuck happened?
Exactly.
But I do love how that movie's shot and the music in it. Like a lot of things done on the cheap in this, and I've listened to the commentary on it and everything too, and you're talking about how the special effects in that movie, which are really good.
Yeah, they are.
He's like, there was this guy, we just got him and he did it and it was amazing and it was like way more than we expected from it. But it's just well shot and this is early Jake Gyllenhaal. It's before he's a real big star and everything. And, it's just a really good movie. A lot of great people in it.
Mm-hmm.
But
random Drew Barrymore.
But yeah, random Drew Barrymore. But it's just one of those movies that by the end of it, you're like, you want to talk about all that time loop stuff and the contradictions and everything. And like, can we come up with a consensus about what happened in this thing? We'll never know because we don't know exactly what Jake Gyllenhaal does. But we know that he somehow triggers all of it, but you still have to kind of you still want to talk about it with people afterwards.
I got one that I don't think I'll ever be able to talk about with anyone seriously. It's The Wicker Man. And
The old one.
The 1973 Wicker Man. That's why I can't talk because of that reaction. Is because anytime that you bring this movie up, you're immediately associating with not the bees. The crazy unhinged Nick Cage version of
My leg.
Exactly. I can't even talk about this on the fucking podcast. Oh man,
No.
The original one is so goddamn creepy. I watched this, many years ago and just found it on demand or something like that and decided to watch it, and it was instantly brought into it. It's sparsely shot. It looks like a 70s movie, but it takes place only on this island that's completely cut off from civilization. And you've got these weird people. It's like the setup of Hot Fuzz, basically. This island in the UK that's so remote, but all the inhabitants know each other, and they have their own parlance.
Isn't
basically.
that what Hot Fuzz is sort of based off of?
It could be.
It's sort of taken off of. Is that early Wicker Man?
What's really crazy is that he's out there trying to find this missing girl, and it starts out and proceeds for maybe the next half of the movie as this mystery, and then it just starts getting weird and then gets progressively weirder as it goes along to where the ending of it is just absolutely insane. And now it's become such a parody of itself because of the remake that it's hard to get across the creep factor of him burning alive in that big structure while these pagans are dancing around just saying, oh, it's the big celebration day. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
But and you've got a great performance from Christopher Lee, and the main police guy is fantastic. But it's hard to talk about it.
Well, I'm going to take that a lot of the really, really stupid shit that's in that remake is nowhere near the original.
Well, there's no woman punching.
Well, yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's just the weirdest gif I've ever seen.
Oh god, that was a slog.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many things. The thing about the remake of the Wicker Man that's just it's all the way throughout it is he hears any noise and he's like, "Is that her?" Any noise.
Yeah.
And he starts running out, and it's just dude, and he's not even. What kills me about that movie is he's a traffic cop and he gets hurt, and then suddenly he's a detective. He goes off to the island and he's flashing a badge.
This is such evidence that I'll never be able to talk.
I know. But you know what? I want to see this original Wicker Man. I do.
Oh, it's really, really good. It's very creepy. And I don't think anybody saw it before the remake came out. Now that's, all people associate with it. But it's very entertaining, very creepy.
Yeah, no, I will give it a chance.
The other thing that I was going to mention that's a cheesy answer is I got OK Computer, Radiohead's OK Computer. In the UK before it came out in the US, and as soon as I listened to that album, I wanted to talk to everybody.
Oh yeah,
and nobody had heard it.
I had heard the what was the
Paranoid Android?
Yeah, I heard Paranoid Android on the radio before the album came out, and it was one of those Rock Over London things that was playing. I was going back to Murfreesboro where I was going to MTSU and everything, and I remember, I'd heard, I was pretty well into Radiohead, I guess. The Bends was a big album for me and everything, but I wasn't really expecting that song and everything.
Yep.
And I was listening to it on the way back and everything, and I was like, "Holy shit, man! This is something completely different. My whole life has changed because of this song."
Honestly, yeah, that's one of the seminal music moments in my life. Is hearing Paranoid Android for the first time, especially that dun 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 dun, and then the doom,
yeah,
and the dun dun dun.
Well, and then after the song was done, the guy, the DJ was he's like, "Did you hear that? You hear the musicianship that's in that song?" It's like, "Oh my god, this song is awesome." Blah blah blah. I was like, so yeah, I know what you're saying.
Man. Next question: what movie villains would you like to see go up against each other? This person's pick would be Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men, trying to take down Hans Gruber from Die Hard. Now, both of those villains we've talked about a lot.
Yes, we have.
So what do you guys think?
Well, Chigurh wins that easy.
Yeah, he does, right?
He's insane. Like, Hans Gruber is sane. He's so unhinged. Plus, No Country for Old Men basically makes him Superman.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Like
Yeah.
that. No one could kill this guy. He's coming after you. You're already dead.
Look at that fucking bone.
All he's got to do is get in that building, or even catch Hans before that. Maybe accidentally pull up beside Hans's car on the freeway when Hans is looking for a jump.
Yeah.
I don't
Anyway.
know. It's an interesting question because, much like how Freddy versus Jason is a movie that didn't work. A lot of the times you try to figure out why would these villains have any interests that overlap to the point that they have to go after each other and everything. So you think of all these different villains, you're like, I don't know what would the Joker have to do with Blofeld or maybe the Joker wants to cause chaos in that realm or whatever. I thought you had an interesting one.
Yeah, so mine is taking specific villains from specific universes. So Little Zay from City of God, who is one of the most terrifying villains I think I've ever seen, because he will just kill anyone, anywhere. And it's hard to tell what his motivations are. Like, he basically just wants
it's all respect,
power and respect, and devalues anything else.
Because at the very beginning, when he's a kid, it just shows like how he's looked down upon, and like, you're not nearly good enough to do this, and you don't deserve the spoils, you don't like all that. And it just really gets hammered in his head early on.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like he wants to make it out of the slums. He doesn't really want anything. He doesn't want to improve it. He basically just wants exactly that, like power in that specific area and respect.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but I'd like to see him go up against Bill the Butcher from Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
And if you set this in a turf war, I think they'd both be perfect.
Yeah.
They'd be perfect foils for each other. Obviously, weaponry would be a little bit different, but they had guns in Gangs of New York. But seeing, like, both of them are just power hungry, like Machiavellian, do anything to get your way, and to see them go in a turf war in somewhere in between New York and Brazil, like something like Miami, and struggle for the turf and the people in your gangs and things like that, I think that'd be fun.
Well, yeah, the reason why I think this lends itself to this question is because that's something that actual real life villains would be doing, would be fighting over turf and stuff like that. That's something that definitely, like, yeah, you start thinking about all the other villains and everything. Now, I did come up with one. I don't know how this would work either, because you're talking about some serious time travel Inception type of bullshit going on here. But I was sitting there thinking, what if Skynet had a war with the machines in the Matrix?
That's beautiful.
Yeah, because the very basis what the very basis of Skynet would be in a world like the Matrix. Would the Matrix be in control of Skynet, or would Skynet be a second group of computers that is trying to take over the world? They have opposing motivations too. The Skynet wants to end humanity. These machines need humanity. So to be killing them and everything is against what they would want in a society. So you would have Skynet going up against the machines of the Matrix in this, like, and then you could throw in like time travel and all the other stuff. I don't want to get too complex, but
how are the Skynet cyborgs powered? Is that ever explained?
I don't think so. I think it's just always just some new technology that they invent.
Because basically it's the source of like nutrition that would be at the central conflict of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only reason that the machines in the Matrix need the humans to survive, is to give them fuel, right?
Yeah, supposedly.
Yeah.
Even though in real life there's not enough actual electricity in the human body for that to be plausible.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what actually runs the Terminators and all right like that. I mean, I'm assuming it's some amazing fucking battery of some sort, that lasts forever.
Like the ones that are in hoverboards.
Yeah, lithium ion. Yeah, or it's or solar by this point. I don't know. That would be a conflict.
The sun.
That would be a conflict too.
Yep.
The fact that they need sun or whatever. But I was sitting there thinking that, if you were able to somehow find a way to have Skynet and the machines in the Matrix coexist in a world, their motives conflict with each other enough that they would fight each other.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And you would have moments where the Terminators are trying to kill humans, and then the machines have to come in, and how do they do it without fucking up the humans' world so that they don't know that they're in a simulation and all this?
Imagine like a Terminator going up against a Sentinel.
Yeah.
That'd be fucking awesome.
Or just the Schwarzenegger T-800 going up against an Agent Smith or whatever.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Would they have to go into the Matrix to actually fight them?
Like that? I mean, that's what I'm saying. You would open up all those worlds.
So you'd have a battle in the Matrix. You'd have a battle in the real world. You'd have a time travel element.
Yeah,
I like that answer.
And you would want to, obviously, you'd want to make this to where it's not fucking confusing, right? I mean, I can already see, like, if somebody wanted to write this screenplay, they would just like, I have so many ideas. And they'd want to put them all in that one movie, and we'd be sitting there going, what? Why'd they go back in time? Why'd they go to the 40s again? I don't understand it. But yeah, that's what I thought. Like, you need to have villains that have opposing motivations in some sort. You can come up with any random villain, obviously, and put him again. First thing I thought of that was easy was John Doe and Hannibal Lecter.
Right.
But what exactly do they have like that John Doe would want to kill Hannibal Lecter and vice versa? What exactly is there in that situation that they would be getting up in each other's business and everything? I can't really think of anything unless John Doe suddenly has something against murder somehow. And he decides that his murders are righteous and that Hannibal's are not. That's the only thing I can think of.
That kill was righteous.
Yes, indeed. Such a classic moment in cinema. Anyway.
Well, I have an over tendency to try and think outside the box sometimes. And so the first thing I thought of, we might even have to cut, but it was like the meteor from Deep Impact versus the cancer from Fault in Our Stars.
What?
I don't know why I thought that was so funny. I feel bad even while I'm laughing. I really do.
Oh, man. Obviously, you can't take that seriously.
Then I thought of Parallax, the world-gobbling villain from Fantastic Four versus that Dormammu thing at the end of Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Planet-eating entity. Those two, who's going to win?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Either way, we all lose.
Yeah.
All you have to do is annoy Dormammu for a while.
Then I came up with something I think is kind of interesting. Have you seen a movie or heard of a movie called Pretty Persuasion?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
It stars Evan Rachel Wood. Ron Livingston's in it. James Woods is in it. And it dances around time, but basically these three girls hate this teacher, Ron Livingston, because he belittled them in drama club or something. So they decide to make up stories that he touched them and said inappropriate things and basically try and get him fired. And we see some of the trial and we dance back to some of their planning stages. And basically by the end of the movie, Evan Rachel Wood has been manipulating everyone the entire time and got exactly what she wanted at the end. But she sleeps with a news reporter who's a female. She sleeps with any guy she needs to get where she's going. It's one of those movies where you watch it and you're like, man, there's something here. Mm-hmm. They didn't hit. This is not a home run, but they had something going. I want to put her up against the teacher from Election, Matthew Broderick.
Oh, yeah.
And make no mistake, he is the villain of that movie. And because we've already seen him square off against a girl he saw as an enemy, even though she was just an overachiever, what would happen if he was going up against an actual evil student who was trying to get him fired? How far do we go then?
Interesting.
Because he goes pretty far in this movie, in Election.
Yeah.
I would, it's interesting that you say that about him in Election. I agree. He's a villain. He's probably the primary villain, but I don't know if there's anybody really other than the Chris Klein character that comes off good in that whole movie.
I mean,
Reese Witherspoon's character, Tracy Flick, is obviously she's got you know, she's done things in that movie that she shouldn't have gotten away with, and everything.
The only thing was tearing down the posters, though, right?
Tearing down the posters, and you know, I mean, obviously it's not her fault with the whole affair with the teacher and everything, but if that got out, you know, that's something.
Well, and she does threaten Matthew Broderick too, because Matthew Broderick is like, maybe if someone hadn't seduced their teacher or such and such and such, and she's like, maybe if someone didn't have a low sperm count, blah blah blah. Like she's basically threatening to tattle his business too.
Yeah, and you know, he's going to do the right thing all the way up until the point that he sees her outside jumping up and down, and it makes him snap.
Yeah,
he's going to do the right thing. He's about to announce that she's the winner, and then he sees her outside jumping up and down.
Film even frames right on her face just to give you that moment he's having.
God, I could talk about election all day. There's so many things about that movie that there's so many little aspects of that movie that I want to talk about.
I love when he comes home after getting stood up by the girl he was going to have an affair with, and he walks in the house and she's on the couch with his wife.
Yeah.
And after a beat, he just goes, okay.
Yeah.
He turns around and leaves.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's painful.
But yeah, that would be interesting to have him sort of, you know, you have another movie with him playing, like, this time a real primary, like actual, like, stated in the movie villain.
All right. If you had a fight, this is a classic question.
Classic.
Throw in some classic
Desert
questions.
Island twist.
Play the hits, you know? If you had a fire, what is the one Blu-ray or DVD you would grab from your collection to save? This person would save his Dark Knight Trilogy box set.
That's a good one.
I'm going to answer this question in the spirit of the question, but I would save so many things before my Blu-rays, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
Because most of all, I have digital copies of all of those things.
Yeah.
And I can always buy a Blu-ray again for $7 on Amazon, and I've got 4 cats and a wife and, you know, heirlooms and art that I care about. But let's just say we have to save one Blu-ray, and I went straight to the Matrix box set that has also the Animatrix movies in there.
Oh, yeah.
I've got one little slim box. It's got all 3 movies and the Animatrix, and that's that. There's no question in my mind. Sorry, Batman, you're gonna burn.
You're gonna burn.
Mm-hmm.
I've also got a Godfather box set that has the Godfather saga in it.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to grab that.
Yeah,
Because, you know, if you're going to be like sitting around in a hotel room while, you know, your shit gets reconstructed, you got some time to spare. And so maybe you could watch through the at least the first 2 Godfathers.
Yeah. and you'd get bored and you'd watch 3. No, I mean, even though you don't like it, you just hate watch it on the island.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah. Well, just to complete the trilogy, man.
Exactly.
I'm gonna talk about a movie that we've talked about a lot today, Big Lebowski. I'm gonna put that in there.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Just because it has so many elements. It's funny. It's got a nice mystery. It's got a lot of things to think about. It's just you know, I think it's just the perfect movie to have on a deserted island. If you're you know, you just have to watch the same one over and over, and you'll always find new stuff in it and all that.
This is a bit of a sad one, but we're gonna do our part to cheer it up here. Today I learned that my dog and his best friend died. He just turned 19, and it's the first loss he's had to deal with, and it wrecked me emotionally. Always used movies to escape this fucked up world, and now I need an escape more than ever. So the question is, what is your favorite feel-good movie and or tearjerker? God bless you. Hope everything gets better. Time helps. Our condolences.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Well, now I feel bad. Because I wrote in my notes, I feel like this guy needs hope more than he needs a tearjerker. So I wrote down Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I think certain individuals, after a pet dies, would have a hard time watching a movie with pets in it. And if that's the case, then obviously ignore me. But it is a feel-good movie. It will remind you of the things that you loved about your relationship with your pet. And you know, Michael J. Fox is a voice in it. You can't go wrong. And it's kind of movie that makes you smile and feel good. That the scares are never all that scary, you know, but the feel is still good there at the end. Anyway, so that's what I wrote down. But does anybody have any non-animal answers for this guy in case he's just...
Yeah, I mean, I brought down 2 of them. I will say that there's an aside here. Like, this is not what you would want to read or watch when a pet dies or anything. But where the red fern grows is what I immediately thought of when this, I've never owned dogs or anything, but I have had pets and everything, and have had pets die and all that, and it's always the worst thing. It always feels like the worst thing when it happens. But where the red fern grows, it's known more as a book than it is. They made 2 movies out of it.
2?
Yeah.
Oh,
there was one in the 70s and then another one they made 15 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With LeVar Burton.
Really?
No.
You can tell me anything right now. I have no knowledge. I remember the one in the 70s because we watched that at some point. But
yeah, I'm not sure any of them are considered.
That's a random name.
Yes, it is. I'm sure that I'm not sure if those movies are, and those movies are not considered classics or anything, but Where the Red Fern Grows is a really sad story, but it also has an uplifting sort of ending to it. If you've never read it, I suggest reading it. Maybe not during, the loss of a pet and everything, but somewhere down the road and everything. I think it's a book that really sort of puts that stuff in perspective. But I put 2 movies down. One for the feel good movie. I put in Contact because I feel like that's an affirming movie. That especially since the Jodie Foster character is as underdog as it gets.
Yeah.
Constantly being told by the men in the movie that you're not going to be able to do this type of stuff, and only her father is the one who's really sort of like the champion of her.
Even after I was watching that scene again, even after she discovers the signal.
Yeah.
And it's a great long shot of her coming all the way back down the road to the hub there and interacting with their team. And then as soon as Drumlin gets in there, he starts fucking taking over.
Yeah. And he was the guy. He was the guy who didn't believe in any of it.
Exactly.
And he wanted to cut the funding and all that. And it just goes to show how much politics involved, and especially during the scenes where they're interviewing all the would-be pilots and everything.
Yeah.
And she gives them the straight answers, and everybody else is giving them the answers they want to hear. And they end up giving him of course, ironically, it's
you believe in God, Ellie?
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want to live in a world that knows no God. Of course, obviously, by the time she does get to go, it's this wonderful type of space travel movie, and at the end it's very unsatisfying as far as but she gets to see her dad again, and that's sort of an important thing. And then and it's unsatisfying just because this is the way it's always been done. We're not going to tell you any more than this. And so on. And so it's so frustrating. You went through all this fucking trouble to give diagram of a ship, and now you're going to be like, well, you've seen this. I'm not going to tell you anymore.
Figure it out on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're dicks.
But by the end of it, the part that always gets me though is just the Angela Bassett James Woods conversation at the end and everything, and they're because what they saw was that she was gone. She was never gone. She landed straight in the net. And the recorded 18 hours of static, and it's always one of those things that just gets you.
Yeah, what's weird about that is when you go back and you look at the Senate hearing or the congressional hearing, and you see like James Woods, he puts on the static, and then he nods at somebody to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie presents it as that he didn't know that there was 18 hours of static.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if he knew beforehand or if he knew afterwards.
He's a dick. He knew before.
I think he knew. I think he knew, and I think that when she says it recorded 18 hours of it, he's like, "That is interesting, isn't it?"
Oh,
he doesn't say it like, "What, really?"
Yeah,
he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He always knew. I still think it's ridiculous though that they went through with the whole Senate hearings anyway. If people saw that and everything, unless they're just trying to cover it up.
But why would they? I mean, everybody knows that they're getting this alien signal. I don't know.
I know.
Just, believe me, is so weird.
Believe me, we send the shit out of that. But in the tearjerker, it's a similar movie, Interstellar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The scene that of course everybody sort of has memed to death is McConaughey crying when he sees his daughter. I'm almost there with him though.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand where people got the idea that this was something that like, let's just make fun of this all the time or whatever. This isn't as serious as you think it is. I just sit there and always think about what it would feel like if your kid who you knew as this 12-year-old girl comes up to you gets on a screen and she's 30 something all of a sudden
and she hates you.
How much of that would, I feel that every single time I watch the movie. And I also think that even though the ending of that movie is very hopeful and it's got it ends on an up note, it ends with him saying goodbye to his dying daughter who is like now 90 something.
Yeah.
And he has to go off and start a whole new life elsewhere. It is kind of funny that they name the base after his daughter and not him. He thinks it's named after him, and there's like almost no recognition of what he's done by that point. That's what's so sad about the stuff that he's gone through by the end of it. Interstellar, I think, is a good tearjerker.
Yeah, good one. I've got a really uplifting one that will absorb you and take your mind off of things. It's Apollo 13.
Yeah.
You will get so immersed with, the problem solving, the characters, the relationships, the dialogue, all that stuff, that you'll forget about your cares for a while. And then every time, man, I know exactly what is happening at the end of this movie. I know how it ends. I've seen it 13 times.
Yep.
Ah, nice.
But I still get that tension when they lose the radio contact. And then when it comes on, it's good to see you, Houston.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fucking great, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well,
by the way, this whole time you were talking, because I'm half deaf, I thought for sure you said The Power of 13. And I was sitting here going, should I say out loud? I don't know what movie he's talking about. But you actually said Apollo 13, and now I'm with you.
Yeah.
In other words, go watch movies that have space in them.
Yeah,
that was a lot of space recommendation.
Watch The Martian, too, while you're at it.
I think there's even a Homeward Bound sequel in space.
Probably is. Leprechaun in space.
We'll end on a happy note here. What is your favorite short film and why? Would you like to see it adapted into a feature film? Now, this is interesting because in researching the answer to this question, I realized I need to see more short films.
Well, sure. Yeah, most of the short films I've seen are what you guys have seen. I have let them go by the wayside most of the time, these short movies. A lot of you guys picked up some Pixar stuff and everything like that. I've seen a couple that are considered the best of all time. I don't know if I would want them to be a feature length though. Like one of the old ones, I think it's Louis Buñuel made one called Un Chien Andalou.
Yeah,
and it's
got the famous scene in there.
Fucking crazy movie. I don't know if I would want a whole feature of that. It's perfect length.
Do you remember what happens in that? Because obviously the eyeball being cut is the big thing. But what else is happening?
I don't remember. I saw it. I saw it 20 something years ago was the first time I saw it. But that's always considered one of those all time because it's so, I guess it's because it's so it's so got a lot of symbols and, symbolic type of things in it. And it's got those images in it. And it's just a crazy movie. Another movie that I saw fairly recently that's also considered in one of those best all time is called La Jetée. That movie has been made into a full-length feature, and that was 12 Monkeys. La Jetée is basically just told through photographs. It's not 12 Monkeys, but it's the same sort of deal going on in it. It's a time-traveling type of thing, but it doesn't have all the same plot. It doesn't have nearly the plot that 12 Monkeys does. It just has that very bare-bones loop of time in it, and then they made 12 Monkeys basically out of that. So that was another one that was just sort of off the list as soon as I thought of it and everything. It's like, well, it's been made. We've seen it. And 12 Monkeys is a great movie. So I went and watched one just for this question. Just watched one.
Wow, dedication.
Well, yeah, and it's a random one. I'm not going to come up with these, amazing freaking tons of short films for you or anything. But I ran across one called RPG OKC. It's a 9-minute short film using basically like 90s Nintendo video game animation and like quirks and stuff like that.
Wow.
And it starts off with this guy on his computer, and you can tell it's sort of in the modern age because it's talking about Facebook and stuff like that. And it's about a guy who's like a knight in this castle who has started talking to this woman online, kind of a catfish sort of scenario, because the woman is actually like a cat, and it's the cat is in another world, another dimension, and so like there's like these little scenes where like you see the little guy walk out like a video game RPG guy would out to the castle, and he's like talking to his brother, and he's like, yeah, I was talking to this girl last night, and he goes, that girl's totally a dude, man, and all that type of thing. It's like keeps going back and forth like that. And so like they finally decide, like the guy's like, here, show me a picture of you, and she shows an actual picture of herself, and it's like, she's a cat. And I think he goes away for a bit, and he comes back and he goes, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. So they want to like meet each other and everything. So he has to go and actually there's a point where he gets into an RPG style Final Fantasy battle where he's like sort of unwittingly gotten into one and everything. And then like, it's got a lot of like really funny references to video games, just like video game stuff in it. Like, he runs into these like 4 girls, and these girls are like kicking all these knights' asses and everything. And like, he gets hit like really hard, and he's like, girls, quit for a moment. Just, I'm trying to meet a girl. and she's like, the girls are like, well, I don't know. I guess we could run away, right? Well, yeah, but we won't get any of their items. And she's like, do you have any items? And like, you see a big thing show up on the screen that says like, potion received or something like that. And they let him move on. So it's a funny little thing. And I ran across it because I was looking up best short films and everything. And someone had put this in a list, and I would recommend seeing it. Cool. RPG OKC.
I'm going to throw out an old school shout out for the original Wallace and Gromit films, although at 30 minutes, I think they're pushing short film length. And sadly, the voice of Wallace has died last month. But I am going to go with my very, very favorite. Again, I don't have like a film student's breadth of knowledge of short films. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go with Presto. It's the Pixar short that ran in front of, I think it was WALL-E.
It's a good one.
And it's basically the rabbit and all the shenanigans with the magician and the magic hat. And there's moments where, if you've ever played the Portal video games, there's moments in this magic hat short that are reminiscent of that. And I was crying the first time I saw this. By the end, I would it's one of, all the Pixar shorts are good. Most of them are as much charming as they are funny. Right. This one's just laugh all the way through. It's my very, very favorite.
Nice. Yeah. Good one.
Presto. Yeah. I even put the link in the email for you guys so you can watch it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I just did recently see the Pixar short Lou that was right before the Cars 3 movie, and it's really good. It's about this playground bully and this creature made out of the contents of a lost and found box, and how they reconcile and everything. The kid keeps stealing stuff from the other playground people, and that's really good. But I'm going to go super classic with because I think this is a short film. It's directed by John Landis, the Thriller video.
Oh yeah, that qualifies.
Okay. It's got a beginning, middle, and an end, and a pretty badass song and some pretty badass dancing. So that's going to be my pick. And I mean, it's probably 9-10 minutes long. We actually recently, we sent it last Halloween, and I was reminded just how groundbreaking it is and how awesome. There's a lot of things wrong with it, but it's really amazing to look at. And
at that really time, music videos were not using Hollywood makeup like that, and hiring Hollywood directors and like really making it film-esque. And of course, it would be Michael Jackson who would be the guy that would want to push that envelope. But that's a great call. I love that.
All right. Well, and if anything, this question basically says we need to watch a few more short films.
I know. But to answer that last part of the question, would you like to see it like expanded into a thing? No, I think there's a genre for short film that needs to be pushed. It's like short stories. I love reading short stories, a collection of short stories, as much as I love reading novels. It's just a different, methodology.
Well, and the one that I watched would definitely fit for that. Now, you don't want to watch a movie that's got a whole bunch of video game text all the way through it, all the way, but and the reason, I mean, movies are short films for a reason, because a lot of the times you wouldn't be able to take that presentation for 30 minutes plus. But I felt like that world of RPG OKC would definitely fit a bigger world. Like it actually feels too short the way it runs out, because it's 9 minutes. But I feel like the world of Presto would be something that would be easily made into a big movie and everything. And maybe not Thriller, although they keep adding layers in Thriller where it's like, they were watching a movie. Oh, now they're in real life. No. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe they weren't in real life.
It's a dream.
Yeah, it's a dream. But yeah, that's what I'm going to take from it. I'm going to have to watch more short movies. All right. Well, that'll do it for this SinCast. Please keep going to SoundCloud and giving us your thoughts.
Yeah, let us know where you're from. We've been getting a lot of emails and messages and comments and things like that from everywhere in the world. Even if you're in the States, let us know where you're from, where you're listening. It's a lot of fun. This last episode that we did is just, you guys were crushing the comments. It was fantastic. It's great to interact with you. We'll get back to you as much as we can.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
Now Chris's daughter is going to come in the comments and say, I listen from the closet where he keeps me. I think all those MTV Awards shows are indistinguishable.
Yeah.
They kind of are. Did you see they're going gender neutral with the movie awards?
Oh,
they're
yeah?
not going to have
Well,
an
that's
actor or actress.
Yeah.
It's gonna be best.
I like that.
Best person, and like the Moon Men are going to be Moon people now.
That's clearly something where you don't need to have a distinguish. You don't have to distinguish between anybody on that. It's not like you can put it all in one category and it's great. I mean, it's
and they don't do that at the Oscars because I think they know on some deep down level that they would just vote all men because they're all old racist bastards.
Well, I think it's in. I mean, the other side of it though is that there's more winners.
Sure,
that way. I mean, you do lose something by saying best person, best actor without whatever
for MTV. They're not looking to push the awards themselves anyway. They're looking for performances and shit like that. The Oscars are about the performances,
right? So so the Oscars, I mean, in that way, you get 4 different actors and if they did it just like best person and best supporting person, you'd only have 2 at that point. And there would be even more uproar about who lost and all that.
Who got shafted.
Yeah, who got shafted. But
they're also bringing back TRL.
Yeah. I saw that.
Really? Is Carson Daly coming with it too?
I don't know who's going to host it, but they're spending a goddamn ton of money to rebuild the studio looking over Times Square.
Yeah.
They used to have. And they're going to try to make this video clip show thing like an event again.
Yeah.
There's no fucking way that's going to work.
Nope,
man.
I wouldn't think
not
so.
at all. I don't
Not a
even
chance.
know what they're smoking.
I don't know.
Because they have enough. First of all, they're far from the only channel that has vastly strayed from their original, content.
Yeah, the Learning Channel.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know that they have to get back to their roots. Music videos are not a thing that works on TV anymore because there is YouTube. Right? And who cares about your arbitrary countdown or your Miley Cyrus is in studio today, blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
Yeah.
Nobody. But you've got shit that works, like The Real World, and that Catfish show is really popular. I don't know why they don't just
Wild
make
and
more.
Out is coming back, and that is a show that lends itself to being, something that you would watch on TV because they do have like big guests like Chance the Rapper and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We may have discussed this before, but are all Catfish episodes about people who? I mean, are any of them real?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, every now and then, it seems like once or twice a season,
They'll throw you a curveball.
they'll find one, and they're always shocked. Like, I just saw one the other day on a rerun, and this guy showed up on an RV. Like, they told him to meet him at this lake, and they're there, and he shows up on an RV, and he's exactly who he always said he was. And they're like, I'm not convinced yet. Answer these questions for me. Like, they're so shocked when it's But they've even had a couple, like, matchmaking. Like, they actually helped two people who wanted to meet and fall in love or date or what have you.
Even if they're not the person that they were supposed to be?
No, almost never in that case.
Oh, okay.
Almost never in that case because, I mean...
What is the level of a catfish, though? So say, like, I market myself as this, like, 150-pound, like, chiseled dude that is otherwise pretty much me, and then I show up with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that technically a catfish?
Yes. And as long as you're faking what you look like or your identity, you're a catfish. But if you are who you said you are...
I haven't done that before.
I thought that was fairly common, though. People, I mean, not super common, but I thought that the whole misrepresenting yourself through pictures and stuff like that was something very common, whereas catfish was more along the lines of they're faking everything and they have
like
no intention
gender or something like that.
Yeah, they have no intention of ever dating or whatever. They just like to do the ruse and everything.
Most often it's somebody of the same gender or it's somebody who has self-image issues. So, when they finally meet, a lot of the stuff they've shared with this person in their relationship is true. Like, my mom really did die of cancer, or it really did have to go to jail when I was 15, or what have you. It's just that they're misrepresenting what they look like. But these people have built a relationship through texts and messages and what have you. Phone calls often. Anyway, it's weird. But now they've been at it for so long, they're getting into, like, just the other day I saw one where it was the catfish was somebody they had caught on a previous episode catfishing.
Oh, really?
What?
So they've been at it for so long, they're catching the same people twice.
At that point, it becomes like To Catch a Predator or something like that.
Here's Barney again.
What are you doing here?
Well, they are spinning that show off, and they're gonna go after internet trolls.
Ooh.
And I guess people who harass people online or what have you. I don't know.
I wonder how that's going to work. I would maybe watch that.
Yeah.
I got a lot of free time. I would maybe watch almost anything.
If it's anything like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where they go and visit all the kids that said bad stuff about them, they beat everybody down.
That's the best part of that movie, and it's so worth the whole thing to get there.
Yeah.
You are the ball lickers. We are saying.
Sharon Stone's and Quick and the Dead? I'm not going to fucking watch that. Watch it.
I don't think you get that sentiment these days.
No, you probably. I don't know.
taint
Maybe
or
not. If you want to see her taint.
Wow. Wow.
And I might even have a bonus question for you guys.
Oh no. Those always work out great.